Hello everyone. Indian government has paired up with US government to give scholarship to Indian students who wants to study in the US, and this is a fully funded scholarship. So in today's video I'm going to cover up about what this scholarship is, how you can apply, starting from the eligibility criteria to the application process, and what all things do they look for when they are going through your application so that you have a better chance of landing this scholarship. Hi, I'm Hiral Sejpal and welcome back to my channel Hiral's World. If you're landing on this page for the first time, then let me tell you a little story about me. Well, I came to Canada on a fully funded scholarship that was provided from Indian government. Unfortunately, that scholarship is not available anymore for Indian students, but there is similar scholarships that are offered for Indian students to study abroad, such as US, Australia. Some of it is actually also covering Canada. But in today's video, we are going to talk about Fulbright Nehru Scholarship, which is one of the scholarships that is given to Indian students who wants to study in the US. It covers your J1 visa application, it covers all your tuition expenses, plus your medical expenses, as well as your airfare allowances. So without further ado, let's dive into this video. Okay, so I will be showing you in a bit on my laptop screen what all things are needed for this scholarship, but let's first talk about the difference between Fulbright Nehru Scholarship and Fulbright Kalam Scholarship. Fulbright Nehru Scholarship covers your entire tuition fees and everything if you want to study masters in the US, whereas Fulbright Kalam Scholarship is completely different. So in today's video, we are just going to cover up about Fulbright Nehru Scholarship. So let's start with the eligibility criteria. Eligibility criteria for this scholarship is if you have achieved about 55% marks in your undergraduate degree which you have completed from India, then you are eligible for this. If you are one of those average student who is really wanting to study abroad but don't have enough funds, then this scholarship is for you. The second eligibility criteria is you must have a full-time work experience in one of the fields of your study. So it says 3 years of full-time paid professional work experience relevant to the proposed field of study. So it could be even your internship experience or even something like a co-op. So if you have done something like that in your undergraduate degree, then you should totally go for this. And if you are completing your undergraduate degree right now, and if you do not follow me on Instagram, then you should do it right now, because I share all of these kinds of opportunity where you could go on an internship or you could do a co-op program. Now let's move on to the field of study. So there are lots of fields of study. For example, arts and culture management, then there's economics, then there's environmental sciences, higher education administration, and this includes everything, right? Like this includes like all student affairs, academic affairs, admissions and enrollment. So if you're studying any of these, then for sure you are eligible. So let's suppose if you are studying something that does not fall in these criteria, then I strongly recommend reading through the description, because you might be studying something that might follow very closely with journalism and mass communication. So for example, let's say if you are studying to become a social media manager, then of course this is something that will cover that part. So make sure that you read through it. Let's suppose if you are studying something related to a radio jockey, again, it comes in here. So make sure that you read through it and try to like choose the closest possible field that is in relation to your studies. So now let's come on to the main part, which is how to apply. Now in any application process, this is what I have learned from my scholarships and from my experience, that whenever you are applying for a scholarship, they are not only looking at your grade, and this is a common misconception that people have, that oh, my grade needs to be better in order for me to land that scholarship. No, everything else counts. Like how many publications have you had, have you ever like written anything, how is your SOP, your references, they hold a lot of weight as well. Overall, what matters is that how well you are able to demonstrate your experiences, right? It's not only about academics. So don't be afraid. Even if you have 55% marks, you have a very good chance of applying for this scholarship. So let's move on to how to apply. So in order to apply, if you notice, there are quite a few checklists over here. I recommend going through all of them, especially once you go up on this website, which is where you have to create your account. So you have to create a new account, and you will be asked several different questions. So when you start your application, there are several different things that will be needed from your end. First is, of course, academic and professional information. So it could be your resume, and make sure that you are creating a good, concise resume. What they want to know is whether you have a 3 year of work experience in a field that you are going to apply to. If you have not watched my resume video, then I would strongly recommend you go and watch it. And I have also given some of the sample resume in my video, so feel free to adapt from there and feel free to create your own resume. The second is research objective, or like what is your study. So usually if you are applying for masters abroad, then you should have a better understanding that, like, you are either talking to a supervisor or you should have your research hypothesis. The next one is personal statement. This personal statement is nothing but SOP. So you will be writing a good SOP, and again, if you don't know how that is written, feel free to ask me in the comments below. I will be able to share some of the sample SOPs, and perhaps if I could find one of my own, then I can totally send that to you as well. Again, if you have not watched my video about how I ended up getting a fully funded scholarship and how I was approaching different supervisors and different colleges or universities to get to know what their research is like and if they can fund my research, so of course you can watch that video as well. I will link it in the description box below. About the writing sample, so this could be your publication or like your journal article or something that you must have worked on in your undergraduate degree. Portfolio or writing sample, so like, if suppose you are studying like mass media communication, things like that, then of course portfolio is something that you should have. This is a very comprehensive guide where they're actually talking about what all things are needed, so feel free to like go through that as well before you start applying. And lastly, there's also timeline and process related information that is there. So I think one of the good things is, like, when I had applied for Indian government scholarship, I had no idea whether my application went in a sinkhole or like, is it like even going to be counted, because I had no idea what their timeline was. Although I did hear from them in like within 3 months, but here in this Fulbright Nehru scholarship, they have given the timeline. So make sure that you are reading through that timeline. And one last thing before you go, that on this website it was mentioned that if you are already in touch with some of the universities in the US, or if you are in touch with some of the colleges or any professor, then you can list their names. Of course, take their consent before mentioning their name, but still, that's something that also you can do. I have 3 links in the description box below. First one is about the resume and CV. The second link is about how I approached different universities and how I landed 3 scholarships in Canada. And I've also shared some of my templates and some of my other important advice. So I hope that is also useful for you. Thank you very much. Stay safe. Bye.